These are 3 short stories by playwright Daniel MacIvor. Once there was a man who was in a very bad mood. When he woke in the morning, even though the sun was shining, all he saw was rain. And even though the cat was purring and rubbing against his leg, he kicked it. When he left the house, he trampled all over the violets he had carefully planted the summer before. And when he had finally gotten to work, he sent nasty anonymous messages to his co-workers on his computer. He jammed the photocopier, forgot to recycle his styrofoam cups, put a plastic fork in the microwave, and told Debbie in accounting that she had body odor. On his way home from work, he jumps through the puddles trying to splash pedestrians. And when he finally made it home, he kept fish sticks burning in the oven till 3 o'clock to set off the smoke detectors and annoy the next-door neighbors. Then he went to sleep and thought, well, at least today is over, tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow came, and it was not better at all. He kicked the cat. He trampled the violets. He sent nasty anonymous messages to his co-workers. He told Debbie in accounting that she was fat. He jumped through the puddles on his way home, and he kept fish sticks burning until dawn. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day were worse, and worse, and worse. Crushed violets, angry co-workers, a disheartening Debbie, angry pedestrians, and so on and so forth. So the man, tired of violets and tired of rain, went to see a doctor. The doctor told the man that in order to get out of his very bad habit, he would have to sing a song and climb a mountain. The man asked the doctor,
"What mountain? What song?"
That,
said the doctor,
is entirely, sir, up to you.
The next day, the man spoke to some people who knew some things about the differences between mountains and hills. And it was quite easy for the man to find an easily climbed mountain in that relatively flat region. But a song? The man knew absolutely no one who knew anything about a song. So the next day, he went to his neighbor's door, knocked on it, because he heard from time to time. But his neighbor could see it was the nuisance from next door and would not answer the door. At work, every time the man tried to approach someone to ask about the song, they would avoid or ignore him. The man was beginning to think he would never find a song to sing and would never feel better about himself again. Until finally, the woman who made coffee took pity on him and told him that he should talk to Debbie in accounting, the girl in the choir. The man had barely taken Debbie's attention in, barely leaned on his desk, when all of a sudden she smacked him upside the head with a stack of papers. He plummeted backwards over his desk, straight into his boss, who had just made a fresh pot of hot coffee, spilling it all over him. He was fired on the spot. And the moral of the story is, learn a song.
Lived alone. The woman thought of herself as an average sort of person, and unfortunately, this was reflected in her choice of lovers. But when the woman thought of the dog, she felt for sure that he was not an average dog at all, for this was a dog who laughed. When the dog was happy, which was most of the time, he would laugh and smile just like a human. Of course, it was different than a human smile or laugh, because the smile and laugh came from the mouth and voice of a dog. Some people, if they didn't want to believe in the laughing, could easily pass it off as a quirk, or the result of some accident. Then, one day, the woman met a man. They exchanged words of love. And because it was the most convenient thing, the man moved in with the woman and the dog. When the man first met the dog, he knew for sure that he was not an average dog. He knew that the dog was laughing at him, and he knew that the dog was really laughing at him. This was the sort of man who, whenever he entered a room and people stopped talking, he knew it was because they were talking about him. Or if he entered on a bus and there were little girls giggling behind him, he knew they were giggling about his hair. After a time, the man convinced the woman to give the dog away to a family in the city woman, the dog stopped smiling and stopped laughing, and also sad because the dog, like most people, had no opinion of the man whatsoever.
One man spoke only French, and one man spoke only English. However, before the two had the chance to find this out, many plans had been made between the two from across the room. When they got outside the bar, that was when they realized that they could not communicate with words. At first, this startled both of them, neither having been in this position before. But as they walked, they talked nervously, even though they both understood that the other could not understand. The Frenchman noticed how the Englishman smiled. The Englishman noticed how the Frenchman moved his face and hands. When they got back to the Englishman's apartment, mouths and fingers took the place of words, and this was very good. In the morning, the two men felt more comfortable than they ever had before, because words were impossible and thus unnecessary, and this put the two very much at ease. After 3 months together, they started to pick up each other's language. The Englishman noticed how the Frenchman's words formed bitter ideas. The Englishman noticed how the Frenchman's words formed prudish ideas. But it was too late. They were in love, and so they made a rule that anything and everything could pass between them as long as words were not involved.